in terms of that, because you do talk quite a bit about cash flow issues, and so I know you frequently talk about the human aspect of it.
Yeah.
So like, let's talk about that a little bit, because you said, I may have made a grave mistake inviting you on this episode. So, let's dig into that a bit.
All right, we're going to go on a whole-on rant. So the accounting community as a whole is moving from compliance to advisory and consulting. And everyone's like, we have to go from being reactive to proactive. So the obvious choice we've all decided is, instead of doing P&Ls and balance sheets, we're going to move to cash flow forecasting. In my opinion, cash flow forecasting is only technically more proactive than a profit and loss. Like, technically, because a profit and loss is historical data and a cash flow forecast looking forward. But at the end of the day, a cash flow forecast isn't affecting the cash flows. It's planning, literally forecasting, and trying to figure out what's going to happen before it happens. But if we want to be truly proactive, we should take a further step back and look at what affects cash flow. So like the processes and the humanity of it, and the bottlenecks are inside the businesses. Because we can sit here and forecast forever. You could literally just continue to forecast every single month. But until you go and attack those kind of processes and human elements and bottlenecks or whatever it is, you'll keep having the same problems. And like, certain businesses cannot get away from cash flow forecasting, right? So I'm not saying it's bad. Certain industries, like where you have very tight margins or weird situations, so like staffing firms, construction, restaurants, hospitality, all right, you can't get away from forecasting. Or anyone with legit COGS, right? Retail, right? You can't get away from it for a certain extent. But simpler, more straightforward, like service businesses, a lot of the time, forecasting doesn't actually fix the issue. And you kind of wind up in this constant treating the symptom without ever actually fixing the disease, right? Which is like cool from our side of the equation, because we get to pat ourselves on the back and be like, oh, we were more proactive, we provided value to the client. But the true value would have been to fix their like crappy invoicing process a year ago, and then never have needed forecasting because it was never a problem anymore, right? So that's, I think that as the way we think about cash flow, we focus too much on the numbers, the inflows and the outflows themselves, and less on what causes them to be off time. Like, if one invoice is late, all right, that's a micro issue. We have to fix what the hell is going on with this so we get the money to pay our payroll. But if every other invoice is late, that's not a micro issue. That's something is going wrong. And like, yeah, you can forecast it and fix it by forecasting, but like, you're avoiding the real problem, in the name of being proactive, right?
Yeah. So your real beef, if I'm going to summarize this, is really cash flow forecasting is useful, but a lot of people are using it as a crutch to just say that they're being more proactive without actually surfacing and solving the real issue behind what's causing the cash flow issues. Yeah.
Cash flow forecasting.
I would 100%, 100%, like, being the cash flow forecasting person on this call, I 100% agree with everything that you said. Like what we really espouse to at Helm, and, what we kind of, where it came from on the 2080 side in my own consulting firm, is really fixing those processes. That's why I actually watched your little, I think it was a 2-minute video on the human aspect of cash flow. Like I agreed with everything that you said on that video. I should have saved the link for posting it up here, because I thought it was really good. But you talked about, invoicing. It might not it's not a cash flow issue. It might be a human issue in the way that you're even talking to the people on the other end.
Yeah. And that's not something we discuss in accounting thoughts. Because like in accounting, it's like, it's always about the numbers. But at a certain point, the numbers are just reporting an action or an activity that happened. And sometimes the problem was in the activity. And we can't just sit in the numbers forever. And that's part of the problem with talking about cash flow. Like, you agree with it, I agree with it. But if you go out and look at people talking about cash flow, the conversation is always about numbers, right? And it's to the point where sitting and saying it's about the people and the processes is like a crazy concept. But if you explain it, everyone kind of casually agrees, right? It's not, in my opinion, talked enough about as far as accounting advisory goes.